I feel like it's like with the stock market where back in the day in the 90s, you might have to call a broker, pay him a few $100, maybe a few $1,000 commission. Then you went to like E-Trade, and then you could kind of pay $10 or $20 for a trade. And then you went to Robinhood, where they're like, no, that's still too big of a take rate. So we'll give you free trades. Yeah, we're going to sell your order flow. Probably not a maybe not a good trade, but yeah, I feel like now social has been doing that a lot. You have the huge tech companies, the huge social media companies taking all the value that the network's creating, where I feel like it should be flipped on its head, where the users are creating the content, which is the valuable part of the network. They should be earning all the money. The platform is just hosting the servers and the programmers, and that's great too. But I feel like once we start creating networks that can be moved, like Farcaster, like if you don't want to be on Warpcast, your network goes with you. So the platform is no longer in control of the network, and the network accrues value to wherever it wants to, wherever they feel they're getting the most value.
Yo, yo, yo. Grab your headphones, get ready to vibe. ZEROPOD is coming at you when we're doing it live. ZEROPOD, yo, I said ZEROPOD, yo. ZEROPOD.
Earlier this month, Jacek Trocinski threw a huge party in Poland to mark the first anniversary of the DEGEN project on base, and degens from all around the world flew in to celebrate. On this episode of ZeroPod, we sat down with Jacek to learn a little bit more about his personal story, as well as the many twists and turns along the road of degen's first year and what's next for the official unofficial community token of Farcaster. So grab a hot drink and your favorite cap, because the hat stays on for this one. Let's go. Is that a base paint behind you, by the way? I saw that.
Yeah. So the community did a degen base paint. I think it was, what is it, 169. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think we had one of the most popular base paints ever to exist, because like so many people ended up voting. Like degen was like the top word for the next day, and yeah, this is what they painted. You probably can't see the whole thing, but it's pretty cool.
It is cool. We did one for the launch of the Yellow Collective, the art collective that I found it on base as well, and it's pretty dope. I need to get that printed out and maybe replace what I got behind me here with that. I like the vibe. Got to do it. Got to support the builders. Awesome. Well, I'm not sure if you're super familiar with our pod, but one thing we do try to do a little bit differently than most in terms of tech pods is we like to spend a few minutes up front, just try to get to know our guest a little bit, your story, how you ended up here before we dig into DEGEN and everything else you're building. So if you're comfortable, I'd love to hear a little bit about, the Jacek origin story. Like, where did you grow up and how did you end up here?
Yeah. So I was born in Santa Monica near Los Angeles. It's sort of known as like this like rich kind of city-ish, but it actually has like poor areas to be honest. So yeah, there's sort of like this dividing line called Montana. That's the street, and then like once you go north of that, you have like essentially probably like the most elite people in the world living there. And then that sort of transitions into like Palisades, Malibu, and like
R.I.P. Palisades of Malibu, unfortunately.
yeah,
The
yeah,
fires,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Those were yeah, that was not a good situation for them. Um, but yeah, essentially, I was more on the south side, and yeah, I grew up like skateboarding. That was like a big part of my life. Um, then I sort of got into music, like in my late teens or mid-teens. I don't know, 16 years old, and I was always traveling back and forth between Poland. So essentially, my mom was Polish. I didn't know my dad, so that's also part of sort of the story. My family's super small, and so we would go to Poland and we'd stay there for 2, 3 months during the summer, and then sort of travel back.
And that's because her family was still there?
Yeah, so my grandparents were there. They lived like on a farm in a village. It was like, especially 30 years ago when I was 4 years old. That was my first time traveling there. It was like completely different landscape than like LA. You're on a farm. There's chickens and like ducks running around. It smells like crap everywhere. There's literally poop everywhere.
So you had the experience to deal with those DEGEN farmers later on, eh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was literally, walking in shit all the time. So and that's actually part of like living in the village. Like you actually smell pretty bad because you're in the barn and stuff like that. So like my mom and stuff growing up, if they had to like work in the fields and then work in the barn or stuff like that, and then they have to go to the city, like people would make fun of them because they just don't you can't get that stench out.
Yeah, my grandparents were dairy farmers as well.
Yeah, there you go. And so it's like it is a hard stand, and especially like in the village in Poland, like they you couldn't like bathe every day, especially during the winter and stuff. No, it's not enough money and stuff for like heating and things like that. Like you could heat your house, but not like water every day, or not take a bath every day. So completely different times that they grew up in, and that's sort of when I was like 4 years old and like maybe up to 10, like some of that was still around where people like very well, they're trying to like use their resources really meaningfully and stuff like that. It's day and night now. Like basically small farms don't exist anymore in Poland. You have like yeah, you had the whole agricultural revolution, all that kind of stuff. So everybody now has to find work in the city. And all these like small villages, they're now like suburbs, and people have like nicer houses than in the U.S. To be honest, like they're all brand new. It's there's yeah, I would say people are living really well out in the villages or prior villages. So that was sort of it. Uh, that was like a big part of the whole story. And then while traveling, I had sort of learned about like electronic music and so like trance and like all like sort of kind of like electro house and stuff was big out here. But like when I was in LA, like people were still listening to like rap and like rock and it was almost seen as like gay if you listen to to like techno. So people would like sort of make fun of you. I think I played like a sort of like party with some like cholos and like kind of like gangster type of people, and one guy like threw a beer at my head. Thankfully he missed. He's like, get out of here, man. And so I like evacuated immediately. uh
Thank
because
God. Oh
yeah.
man, we almost lost DEGEN thanks to EDM. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And then those same people that were hating, and now you go to like EDC and you see like all types of people loving it. And so I was like really early to that scene. I got to meet like a bunch of really talented artists. Some of them became big, like Dioro. He then had a track with Chris Brown. I think took his sort of track and sung on it.
So you were DJing at this time, EDM?
Yeah, I was DJing and then I was producing music, and so then I started ghost producing some music while in college for one DJ, and so I earned a little bit of money. I got to travel a little bit, so that was kind of cool. And then when I come to Poland, they were less interested in the music I was making, but I did make one track that one summer like really took off, and all the clubs in Poland were playing it, and like the clubs here were really like they were really popping. So I got to play like almost like every other weekend at some kind of club, and it was yeah it's like and actually I made a lot of money that year for like for college and stuff like for like a 1 hour set that was great. So
So at that time, it sounds like you were still sort of by residential. You were going back and forth between LA and Poland even during your college. So you went to college in LA, it sounds like?
I went to college in San Diego, UCSD, San Diego State. Yeah, and so I finished college, and that's when my grandpa literally died like maybe like a day or two or like after I don't know something really close to like my last exam. And so then we went over there for the funeral, and then I ended up and I had just finished college, so I had nothing to really I could just stay. So I ended up staying there for a bit, and then a lot of my friends in Poland were in Wrocław, which is where I'm at now. So I came down here. I sort of was in my party phase, so I sort of partied with them, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try and get a job here. So I got a job at IBM. I'm like, oh, that's a sick company. So I like the brand, and I was like, okay, well, this is great. This is gonna be great for my resume. I'll be at
Where did you
IBM.
get the job at IBM? Sorry, just want to make sure I'm following.
Up here in Wrocław, Poland, they have
Okay.
yeah, they sort of like have their own business center here, and so
Is that what you
uh,
studied? Did you study business or what did you study?
No, so computer programming. So yeah. So this was IT support, and like I was working for a company. So there's a company called Euromaster, and that's who I did IT support for. But I studied programming, so that was pretty boring. I was like, this isn't programming. So I started reading this Oracle SQL databases book. I think I even have it here somewhere. Um, and I started going to lunch with this one guy who was into like he was like a big Microsoft guy. He was from IBM Germany, and he was like, yeah, if I was you and I was younger, I would just go. I would do the Oracle route. Is kind of what he told me instead of the Microsoft like certification route. so so yeah, that's what he recommended. Then he helped set up an interview. He had like a friend at Credit Suisse, and he's like, I'll get you like all the interview questions ahead of time. So I got all the interview questions. Half of them were basically on the interview actually.
You got that alpha for real.
Yeah, I got some alpha, so that was super helpful. And so I nailed those questions, and the other ones I did pretty good on. And so I got into Credit Suisse. And I'd always want to do like financial stuff, but it turned out like I'm going to do programming, not so much financial stuff. But it was cool. Like I got to travel to Switzerland, got to like hang out there, so meet a lot of really cool, talented people. And then I sort of I just kind of kept going, and then Credit Suisse was a lot of fun. And then I went to M Bank as a consultant, which is a kind of big. It's a big bank in Poland. I think Commerce Bank from Germany owns them. And then, last but not least, I went to Hedgehog.app, which I'd always wanted to work at a startup, but not really possible in Wrocław, Poland, until COVID came, and then boom, you could finally do remote working, which was good and bad. The COVID thing for me, I guess, I kind of like sitting at home, so I actually didn't mind it. And I had some crazy neighbors out here who were always Airbnb their apartment. And oh my God, that was like, oh, that was such a struggle. Like these guys were like, because I live like right in the city center, and so I got like a nice condo. I was super proud of that, and all my neighbors just Airbnb'd, and so every day you had a bachelor party, and they don't like, yeah, because it's kind of this down part is because it's kind of expensive for Poland, like this condo. So I was like, oh, I'm going to be living in an upscale building with like, but no, it's all like
They're like,
foreign.
hold my beer, yeah.
Yeah, it's all like foreigners. Bought this as an investment. Maybe they're like half Polish or like something like that. So I was struggling with them, and then finally COVID happened, and like all of a sudden it was quiet. And I was like, oh, this is like amazing. And actually, it's been pretty quiet since, which is good. And so there was some good. And I got a job at Hedgehog, which was a Y Combinator company. So I finally got like into startup world. And then
What
after
did
like three,
Hedgehog do?
uh, so I think the official thing was like they're a robo advisor for like Web3 clients. I think they had a bank as one of their clients. First, they were trying to do retail, then they sort of went to like banking sector and trying to do more like B2B. But essentially, yeah, it was supposed to be a robo advisor. I think it started off more as like a portfolio manager where as a retail user you could log in with your wallet or just sign up and connect all your different wallets and sort of see like an aggregate summary of all your centralized exchange positions, all of your DeFi positions, your portfolio over time. It was actually a good product.
Sometimes you hear about these things and you just realize like they were too early. Like that sounds like a great product for 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought it was a great product, and like, they sort of pivoted in the middle. There was some drama a little bit also at the company, so like a lot of things. And then you had FTX sort of crash, and like a lot of disinterest, and then runway started getting longer. There's a couple of mistakes that I think happened as well that uh, I think it's not, it's not something that's like normally in a playbook. Like, don't do this. I think, but nobody would have foresaw like some of these things, and it just like delayed us. And I think with startups, you have like it's like shots on goal. So basically, the more shots on goal you have, the better. And I think that's one place where we struggled was that we we decided to rewrite the app at some point, and because we decided to do that, that you don't get as many shots because you're just rewriting the same features rather than adding new features. And so that
You're
was like
basically you're basically doubling down at that point.
yeah, you're doubling down, especially when you have PMF, like product market fit. You're sort of not, mm, yeah, you're not doing yourself any favors by not experiment. You should be like, ideally, and with DGen, I want us to get back to us doing this too, is like uh, just iterating as quickly as possible, putting things out as quickly as possible, or getting the community to build things and just build as many things as possible, and then maybe one thing hits. Um,
I think Farcaster in general is good for that, and maybe we'll circle back around to that when we talk about Farcaster. Before that, though, was Hedgehog your first exposure to crypto, or were you already sort of crypto pilled before that?
Yeah, so in college, I remember when Bitcoin was like $200 ish or something. It started getting like, for some reason, it was like in the headlines somewhere, and I ended up buying some Bitcoin. My family was like, no, no, this is like illegal, like don't do this like Bitcoin stuff. But I ended up doing it anyway. So I was just trading for a while. I remember there was like a exchange called Cryptsy, and like that went down, and Mount Gox, of course, was the big one. All that kind of stuff. I was in
Did you lose some in Mount Gox or Rite of
no,
Passage?
no, no, I
No,
was never in that. I was using I had my own wallets and stuff like that. So that
not your
that was
keys, not your coins. Jacek knew early.
yeah, I knew all that. I was in some kind of like what is it called? IRC chats, like those yeah, like those old school chats. Yeah, yeah. So that's where we would hang out. And there were some whales in there and stuff. So that was pretty cool. And then I stopped. And once I moved to Poland, I stopped. I forgot about crypto. But I was like onboarding people to Bitcoin for a while. I was like really into it. And then I stopped.
Did you
I
keep your
totally
crypto? Just kind of put it away, or
no, I
you
sold it.
sold it? Yeah.
I made like double my money, so like maybe like $1,000 or something. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is great beer money. So,
Yeah.
which is kind of what people are doing with DGen now that I think about it. I kind of hate it, but I was the same way. I was like, oh, I just doubled my money. I'm good.
Well, a lot of people don't think about that. I talked about this. Who was it? I had a guest on that I talked about this with, and I can't remember who, but he talked about how like everyone thinks, oh, if only I had bought Bitcoin early, but you also had to like hold it through, not only like downturns, but also like crazy, appreciations as well, and just have utmost belief that it was going to keep going up, and so a lot of people took profit, and then, now it looks stupid, but hindsight's 2020, right? So
Yeah, that's the thing, because like when you're there, it's like very new. Like the price reflects like the current sentiment. So like everybody's like, is this thing even gonna make it? Like, this is some like internet money, and everybody you talk to is like, so what's the utility? I don't get it. And so like, so you're living in that reality. Um, so yeah, there's no way. Like in hindsight, everything is completely different. But I don't regret like selling or like I just had fun buying and selling and like being in that chat. Like that was like a fun time. So I enjoyed that, and then I stopped. And then Hedgehog was when I renewed interest in crypto. I just wanted a job at a startup. I didn't care what it was.
what year was
So
Hedgehog?
that was like 3 years ago. So
2022.
yeah, maybe a little bit, maybe 2021 ish, because
Okay.
yeah, something like that.
Did you get involved at all in like the NFT froth of like 2021, all that stuff?
Yeah, so I think I might have been around at Hedgehog even maybe 2020 in that case, because yeah, I was there for like 3.5 years. So yeah, I was definitely around for like the NFT craze. I saw that happening, but I just wasn't. I wasn't buying stuff, and I wasn't super interested in it all. The only thing I
Do
was
you, do
super
you remember
interested.
what your first NFT was? Did you ever buy one?
Yeah, yeah, I ended up buying a bunch of NFTs, and when I really got into them was when Blur launched. So when I saw Blur, that's when I started sort of like trading these NFTs. And I stood up a Dune dashboard, and I was trying to basically copy trade like the best NFT traders, and find out who they were and all that kind of stuff. And that didn't work that super well. But
So it was the trading side that sort of piqued your interest.
yeah, yeah, 100% the trading side. So I totally understand the degens out there and trading and stuff.
What about meme coins? Was there any meme coins in 2021? Do you remember what your first meme coin was?
Oh yeah, so I got into Dogecoin before Elon Musk did the whole like
SNL.
spiel. Yeah, yeah, before he yeah, before everything. So
Top
uh
signal in
yeah.
hindsight.
So yeah, so I got into Dogecoin like maybe it was actually kind of like crazy because I got in maybe like 2 or 3 months before like all of this craze. I've been following Dogecoin a little bit here and there. I think I even saw it on 4chan or something. But then yeah, so I had like a Dogecoin bag, and actually my I was like basically talking about it a lot in Hedgehog, and so basically they gave me a new title which was Dogecoin Ambassador, and then I also made a website called DogecoinIsAwesome.com. I lobbied the whole I was like Dogecoin website sucks. I lobbied them really hard on Reddit, and I got them to redesign. And I think, well, I wouldn't say I was like the main person, but I remember bringing that up pretty heavily on Reddit. And then I think because I did that, that's when the whole chat started about redesigning the Dogecoin website, and it took them a few months, but they did it. So I was like
So
really,
you're
really
responsible for the Doge pump then, really, more than Elon.
well, no, not for the pump, but I was an active community member.
Yeah.
And then it pumped, and so that was sick. And so actually I still have Doge. Oh crap, I still have Dogecoin on a paper wallet. Uh,
Better check
dude,
that.
I always forget about that. I put a bunch aside. I don't even know where that wallet is. It's somewhere. Okay, I gotta find it. It's on a paper wallet.
It's interesting that Doge was sort of part of your history because I think DGen sort of reflects a lot of the ideals of Doge in the early days. Doge was one of the first cryptocurrencies to really push social tipping, even though it was real tipping in the sense that you actually were giving away your Doge. But I remember back on Reddit, people would literally tip people in Doge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's like the best way to distribute your token is give it to a bunch of people, and then they're like, "What is this?" Which is kind of what I want people to do with DGen, like continue doing with DGen is like, if you have DGen, the best way to get into more people's hands is to give it to them, especially if you know them and they can ask you a question. Then it's like more viral, I would say. So that's what tipping fed into.
We've been experimenting a lot with our content distribution for zero rights in using boosts through layer 3 and also through boost xyz for our content. It's kind of a similar argument, which is that we want people to collect our content, and if you can get them to collect your content in ETH and you give them dgen, it's great for dgen because it's more people finding out about dgen. It sort of expands the holder base. It's great for the person collecting because they get this bonus dgen that they wouldn't otherwise get, and it's great for the creator because you get new people collecting your content, hopefully watching your content. So this is something we learned from the Blueprint Content Accelerator with Adam Levy, and it's been pretty interesting to experiment with.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You just got the holder count, man. That's market cap is just basically holder count times, how much they're holding. And so if you can increase both of those metrics, I feel like either you increase the amount of holders or you increase the amount, each person is holding. Then you're golden, then you're good. Get those diamond hand holders.
Yeah, and I feel like if you have more people holding too, then when good news does happen, you get good catalysts, you're more likely to get that other number to go up too because all these people together are, excited together rather than just big whales being like, I don't feel like this today, or I'm going to dump on everybody today, or whatever.
Yeah, it's totally decentralized. So essentially, you have an army of people who are essentially, I mean, they should want to do marketing for you in theory, is the idea. And that's what Dogecoin was
Work for
like.
your bags.
Yeah, exactly. Dogecoin was like amazing at that. They sponsored a NASCAR team. They sponsored the Jamaican bobsled team. They rallied when somebody like lost like all their funds or there was like a big hack or something. They like, rallied together, put the funds together. They were like one of the first communities to do all that.
I feel like Doge was like kind of a spiritual ancestor to nouns in that way, like in the sense that they did a lot of early organization to do interesting, quirky things, which is what attracted me to the nouns community originally.
Yeah, I've been to one Nouns party and it was really sick. Like that's when I found out like, oh, like what is like I've heard about it, I've seen the glasses, and then I learned about it. But yeah, I think there's like a similar ethos of like bringing the community together for like this shared goal of spreading the meme. Like we're here all to spread the meme to like pump our bags in a sense. But it's like fun. It's like a fun experiment and brings everybody together, and we could probably maybe do some good as well along the way.
Exactly. Let's talk a little bit about Farcaster. How did you end up on Farcaster? Obviously, Farcaster a big part of the DGen story. So, love to hear how you ended up on the Purple app in the first place.
I don't even remember like how I got onto Farcaster. I have no idea who showed me it. I think it was probably just a post like somewhere messing around. Yeah, no idea. But I got onto it, and then I was hanging around more or less when Friend Tech went live, a little bit earlier than Friend Tech actually. I was on Farcaster, and yeah, I was just hanging out. It was a cool community because I was doing a big trip with my now wife through Italy, and so for instance, like one of the days we couldn't find like somebody had written the Wi-Fi password in like chicken writing or something. I don't know what the like chicken script or
Chicken
something.
scroll. Chicken scroll. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, there you go. That's the way. There you go. And so I posted a picture of it, and I was like, "Do you guys know what the password to this Wi-Fi is?" And like I got so many comments. Like people were just like help. They were like trying to figure. Like people were
It's like a
genuinely
puzzle.
curious. Yeah, yeah. And so we were figuring out, and like some people got the letters, and then my wife got the last missing piece. And then I posted it, and like we got it, and so we got into the internet. We were like in this really crappy like motel type of place.
That's
Um,
utility. That's the utility I think that people are
that
talking
was
about.
the utility. Like, we were all just hanging out, and it was like a very cool. And it still kind of is like like homey like that. So that's what I like about it. I tend I think that's where I excel. I like same thing with the EDM. Like when it's sort of small and like has this home vibe and like it's very authentic and people are kind of going against the grain. That's where I think I excel. As soon as it starts getting like mainstream and kind of big, I started to get turned off by it. But I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to because that's where I want to keep going through the whole
Yeah.
thing because that's where like the money, the business, like that you want to be there for that because that's the reward at the end of the whole process. And I've always
Yeah.
shied away from that reward. I've just been like, it's not interesting for me anymore. I want to go find the next new thing.
It is hard to balance that, I think. Like the feeling of building something organic with like the I guess like you said the reward or even just the challenge of scaling, you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right, well, take us back to just over 1 year ago when DGen was born. There's going to be a lot of people watching this, or at least some people watching this, probably who weren't on Farcaster when DGen was born. Can you sort of tell us the origin story?
Yeah, so essentially, we were all hanging. So essentially, I was around Farcaster before. I think channels weren't really around. Then all of a sudden they made channels, and then and so you couldn't create your own channels. There were only a few predefined channels, and one of those was the DGen channel, and that channel wasn't really popping. Like there wasn't much going on, but somehow I found
Funny
it.
enough, that channel was created to try to contain the meme coin energy within one channel because people were complaining about too much meme coin chatter. I believe I remember on the TL. So
Interesting.
I remember they tried to like make everybody go in the DGen channel to talk about this stuff with the original meme coins on
Interesting.
Farcaster.
Yeah, yeah. I guess in my feed I wasn't seeing too much of it because I was trying to follow like Dan and like all like these builders and stuff. And so then I saw the DGen channel and somehow I followed it, but there was nothing going on there for forever. It felt like forever, like at least like a month or something. It was just really slow. And then in December, all of a sudden it just like people were started posting these tokens. And so like points was probably the first big ones, and there was like wow wow and like a bunch of farts and all these other ones. And they all like went to like half a million market cap. And I was like, whoa. And I had just basically quit or left Hedgehog. And I was like, I'm trying to raise money, I'm trying to create my own startup. And then I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like all this money's flowing into this. And so I'm like, no, no, I need to start this like right now. I mean, this is like either I do it today or like the wave passes and I'm done. So I posted something like, hey, I'm going to make this DGen token. total fluke that I named it DGen. It's like a great ticker. I didn't even really know what DGen stood for, to be honest. I was in the channel, but it was like a totally new concept to me. And and yeah, and then everybody's like, yeah, yeah, like do this. And so I created a leaderboard. I made it like more gamified.
Yeah, it was all like airdropped and stuff, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So December, I started working on it. Like mid-December, I posted about it like every day, like, hey, I'm making progress. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And then finally, I posted the website, a leaderboard. People could see how many points they had based on their engagement. And then finally, January 6th, I launched the token, and January 8th was when I actually put out the airdrop. And the liquidity pool was on January 7th. And then boom, and like it just kind of like took off, but not that fast. Like we had like 100 wallets, 200 wallets, 500 wallets, and then all of a sudden JP Ren.eth. If you follow him on yeah, he's building this app called Friends
Yeah,
with
I'm
an
on
S at the
Friends.
end.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he essentially he and his team from Friends, they created a frame, and that 10x degen holders in one day, where it was just a
Crazy.
slot machine, and all you had to
Mm,
do was like press play,
I remember that.
and that and it was genius because that thing went viral. It was the most reshared cast, I think, of all time. I don't think anybody has beat that thing. It was just because they were giving away free money that they funded themselves, and
Yeah,
people were just clicking on it. And so like 5, 10 degen was just going out, spewing out to people, and we went from 500 to 5,000 wallet holders, like in the span of like 24 hours. And it was completely not up to me. It was like their whole thing. And then that whole month, the price started going up, and then I was like, I created this thing tipping. Also, wasn't sure if it was going to take off, and then it just spiraled like crazy. It went to like 6 cents degen in like the span of 3 months. We got one confirmation. We created the degen chain. Like all these things were. It was like kind of wild.
yeah. It did go kind of crazy. Talk to us about where you got the idea for tipping and how that was implemented on Farcaster, because maybe people are watching and they aren't super active on Farcaster. Maybe they're primarily on X, and the idea of tipping isn't really part of the culture. So what does tipping mean in the context of Farcaster, and what did you guys pioneer with that?
Yeah, so essentially, like we were talking about earlier, like people like to spread out, the meme coins like Dogecoin, and like to tip it out to basically spread the meme. And one of the ideas that I had, and I kind of went back and forth with this guy called Jay. He had this site called ETHXYZ, or yeah, ETHXYZ dot something. I forget, but he has a token called Sexy, and he's a really cool founder. And he was also in CSS and all that kind of stuff. So it was a cool person. I got to bounce some ideas off him, and he was like really instrumental and all of this because we were kind of talking about potential ideas, and I had wanted to build like a game or something with Degen to give it some kind of like use case. And then essentially he was like, well, we went through my list and we picked out the one that I thought was the least interesting, but the easiest to build. And so I just built the tipping thing, and that was like done in like a day or two, and then boom, like people thought it was like genius, and it kind of was because back then like Warpcast couldn't really, they weren't prepared for it. So like they had no idea, and so like you know those posts weren't like deprioritized. They were in your feed, they were in your face. You were seeing degen everywhere. Whereas now, if people give degen tips and stuff, I don't know how
It's
the
kind of
algo
hidden.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit hidden, so you won't see it as much. Those posts won't get as high, which
If
is
you know is basically what it is now.
yeah, which is kind of a bummer because it feels like Degen was part of the growth story of Farcaster.
For
It's
sure.
one of the and like I really respect Dan and Varun, all that kind of stuff, but I feel like they might have not leaned into what was really helping fuel a lot of the growth.
Not back then anyway. I see that changing now, but I agree. Like back then, it was almost like they wanted to take the growth that came with it, but they weren't necessarily ready to embrace the full sort of speculative mania.
Yeah, like I mean for sure they added like the DGen hat and stuff like that. So like yeah, definitely they were yeah, I agree. They're definitely leaning more towards like a Web 2 mindset, I think, and now they're going to like more of like a Web 3 mindset of like, okay, people are trading, they're doing transactions, like how can we capitalize on that? And so now they're building like the V2 frames and stuff like that. And so no, no, that's great. That's great to kind of see like that they're able to adapt and stuff. Back then, I was a little bit maybe disappointed because I was like, oh man, like DGen, like this thing is like it's really taking off here. Like, um, but I also understand them, and since then I've actually had like the chance to talk to Varun. Now I have like a much better relationship. Well, now we have like a good one. Like I can DM him, he DMs me some questions. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm super bullish about Farcaster still. So that hasn't changed, and I think that they're finally going in like this direction, which is like amazing with the V2 frames. The app is finally looking really comparable to other like social media apps, so it's pretty much on par. So no, I'm super sick, stoked on all of this, and I think they're doing a good job. And I think they did a really great job hiring Waj, Wojtek is his name, from Supercast, and now they brought on Ted. So I think they're going in like a really cool direction. I think this is just like the beginning.
Well, speaking of tips, I wanted to sort of throw some flowers to you personally, just because I really enjoyed that time on Farcaster, and like being someone who was super active and putting a lot of work into growing my own, following and getting new people to enjoy our content on Farcaster. It was a huge part of our growth, both for Zero Rights and also for the Yellow Collective. A lot of that virality was sort of tied into being able to tip people and getting that sort of flywheel spinning. I remember, like, Valentine's Day, I guess, which I guess it would have been tomorrow. Today we're February 13th recording this. So it'd be a year ago tomorrow. You did this crazy thing where you gave everybody this huge amount of tips. And like, if you went back and checked now, the value of those tips is just a ridiculous amount that we were able to tip out to people. And like, that's a really cool memory that everybody who was kind of originally here will always remember.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's cool to see that now because I remember they're calling some people were calling it the Valentine's Day massacre and stuff the day after because I'd given out so much, and even like one confirmation, they sort of reached out to me in DMs were like they started calculating how much money I just gave out, and like that's when like things kind of hit me like, oh no, DJing is like actually valuable. I'm not just giving away like paper, like some kind of like empty pieces of paper. And so that's when I realized, oh no, this is like actually serious. Like I just gave out like a lot of money to people.
But that's marketing too, right? I mean, like I said, that's story. That's part of the lore that people. I just talked about it. People still talk about it. So I mean, you can't really put a price on that. And I think Nick Tomino was on our pod recently, and I know he believes in like leveraging positive sum mindset for growth. And so I'm sure one confirmation wasn't too mad about it in the long term.
They weren't mad about it. They just could have like they sent me the data. They're like, oh, we noticed that you and they summed it up and they were like, here's the price. And I didn't even realize. I was like, oh, whoa, like I did not realize that. And then I kind of came up with like this like BS story of like, well, everyone's gonna remember. And I guess like yeah, that was kind of true
It's not
actually.
BS.
Where yeah, it's not BS. Like I was trying to make my a point there, and they're like, okay, well, you seem to know what you're kind of doing. But they're actually really great because they're not the type of people like they're not like the type of VCs that like are in your face and trying to control you and
Yeah.
like stuff like that. They're just more like laid back on the side, observing and like
They just wanted to make sure you didn't do it again on St. Patrick's Day, basically.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think back then, like I was like a wild card for them, and they're like, "Who is this kid? Like, what is he doing? Is he gonna rug everybody? Like,
Yeah.
is this legit? Like, we just gave him $1 million. Like, is he just gonna like leave us
Yeah.
hanging?" So yeah, that was kind of I get their perspective.
Yeah. So that was a pretty crazy time. The growth was fast. It was kind of like it was an interesting time too, because it was like a mini bull market that really only happened on Farcaster, and most other tokens were down. And so those of us that were active on Farcaster had this weird like bull within a bear before the real bull took off. And like all bulls, it had a little top, and then everything kind of pulled back. What was it like for you during the time when it did pullback, and probably a lot of people were telling you that it was dead and that it wasn't going to come back. How did you get the strength to keep building DGen during that pullback period?
Yeah, I mean, we're still sort of in like a big pullback because we went to like 6 cents and now we're at a fourth of a cent.
Hmm.
So there's like some of that steam was lost where you had like super hype and like everybody was talking about you were front and center.
Yeah,
We even did like a show on Bankless, which is like I've been watching them since I've been in the crypto space.
yeah,
So
big fans of
I've
Bankless.
yeah, exactly. So I was like, whoa, so we're like basically the hottest thing right now in crypto. CoinDesk is doing articles.
Yeah,
Everybody knows us. I went to like consensus and everybody was like, yeah, I asked, who are you? I'm like, oh, I created this thing called DGen. Like, oh man, you created the DGen or whatever. And so he's like the hottest thing. But I knew even like talking to them, I was like, I get it. Like, like this is super hot now, but like I know like how crypto works. I know how everything works. Like there's a cycle, and you're
yeah,
not always in the center. So I was always like in my mindset, I was like, I'm just gonna have like fun while it sort of lasts.
yeah,
But then I think Nick was one of the people for one confirmation. Nick Tomeno was telling me, there's gonna be a day. Like the first thing he told me, like the second conversation we had, essentially was like, hey, there's gonna be a day when your community turns on you and I was like, okay, and so that always stuck with me.
yeah.
And so, yeah,
And did
there's
that
been
happen? Do you think that happened?
oh yeah, there's been several days where the community has been, and it's hard to say like, is it the community? Is it farmers? Is it bots? Is it another project coming to attack us?
Yeah,
Because that happens too. I feel like people are sort of trying to, yeah, there's some zero sum type of mentalities out there too. You
for
kind of
sure.
seen this with ETH and Solana too, like a zero sum mentality. Or you can either be here or there. So
Yeah,
to some degree, it's probably true, but not in the long term. So.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I wasn't super affected because like even now, even at like a fourth of a cent, and sort of like ETH is not like the doing like that well or something, or people, or at least that's the perception.
yeah,
Like there's so many people building things, there's so many people replying and contributing memes. Like basically every day I still have like like 300 plus notifications on Warpcast. My
yeah,
DMs are full. Twitter is all like there's always something. People we have steady engagement.
yeah.
So I haven't really felt like people have abandoned me, but there is a lot of shit talking.
There
Um,
always will be. Yeah,
yeah, so I haven't really taken that to heart too much. Probably when I banned people recently, that was probably the hardest because then I saw like we banned some like kind of legit people, and I was like, oh damn, so like we didn't just catch the farmers, and then people were like, oh, we're turning away from you.
yeah.
So I kind of felt bad about that.
Can you talk a little bit about that problem more broadly? Like the idea you've given away all of these funds in a way, like we just talked about the Valentine's Day tipping, but people can tip every day, so they have these allocations. And of course, there's always going to be bad actors who come in and try to take advantage of that. What's it been like for you trying to sort of walk that line between making sure you can, that legitimate people will always have their allocations and that farmers get wrecked?
Yeah, I guess the thing is, anytime you give away free money, people are going to find a way to game the system, and I don't think any company, big or small, has figured out a way to like stop that. So it's always like a game of cat and mouse, and I don't think we're going to crack the code on it. So um, yeah, that's probably why we just kind of reduce tip allowances for now, and then we kind of push that problem to the side and like, hey, tipping can happen, but like it's also hurt our brand a little bit. I feel like because DJen was associated with the best builders and coolest people on Farcaster, and now it feels like some people don't want to associate with DGen because it's been associated with like people farming it and clearly not posting anything like useful on Farcaster, and so it's been kind of been spammy a little bit.
I don't think that's true. Like definitely within my circles, I think everybody still respects DGen and what you've built and the culture that you've promoted. So don't get too down on yourself from the haters. I think most people still appreciate everything that you've built in my experience.
Yeah, I'm definitely not feeling like, well, I definitely kind of want to just like react to it a little bit and be like, well, we want to go back to like being like more of a like I don't like for sure DGen is still very solid. We have a solid ticker, we have a solid user base, we have like all that good faith that we built up sort of initially, and so we have like a lot of like even we just had the DGen party, and we had like some like really amazing builders that came through, and I was like not surprised. I mean, I was surprised to see that. I was like, oh, what, like all these people are coming through who I really respect too, and also just like the regular DJs I've never heard of. So that was cool. But I do want to steer the ship in a way where we make sure that we are conscious about our brand and that we are associating ourselves also with like the top builders and the best people on Farcaster and just in general, because I feel like well, actually, that's another thing. Like, I think we've outgrown Farcaster in a sense that like our Farcasters are home, but like most DGen people don't know about Farcaster. I'm gonna guess that like 90% of people holding DGen have probably never heard of Farcaster, and they have no idea what it was. My
And where do you think they found out about it? Through Coinbase?
Yeah, Coinbase trading, all that kind of stuff. Like even today, uh, my wife's sister's boyfriend, we're really close, and so he's a mechanic and he was working at a shop and he was talking to one of the clients, and the guy they were talking about crypto, and he just called me like a few hours ago and he's like, the guy was telling him about DGen that he bought DG, made a lot of money off DGen, and then he was like, oh yeah, yeah, he's a family member essentially, and the guy was like, oh, congrats, and then but that guy knew nothing about the degen party happening in the city, and he had no idea about Farcaster. All he knew was that it's a sick ticker and the price was going up, and he made money.
The two best marketing pieces. Good ticker, price go up.
Yeah, exactly. So I think creating a funnel for people is another thing, because I really do think like Farcaster now is just a very small segment of degen holders, and I've realized that the degen holders are horizontal, like where they're across Twitter, Reddit, Telegram.
That's good though. And that kind of supports the thesis of like Farcaster being like, oh, someone posted today. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Clanker posted, FC is the new YC, and I thought that was pretty clever. I think that's very true. Like Farcaster is where these interesting things get incubated and hopefully grow beyond.
Yeah, true. And hopefully Farcaster can build this new social fi piece, which I think is interesting. Though in Web 2, you don't really have the finances integrated into social that well. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. Like maybe you have like some of these like finance apps. Maybe there is some of those pieces, but maybe
Or
what
we
I
have
think.
projects like emerging projects like Banker that are starting to bring some of that over to X as well, like being able to transact and stuff like that, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm curious to see like how social and finance mix. That's always been the thesis. That's always been the theme of like figuring out social and finance. And Degen was supposed to be for rewarding good content, and so figuring out how to keep doing that in a sense.
Yeah. We mentioned Coinbase just briefly. I wanted to ask you about that. What was it like finding out that DGen was going to be listed on Coinbase? Did you have to do a lot of legwork to get DGen listed, or was it just kind of like they approached you after your success? I'm always curious how that happens, as much as you can share anyway, because there's been a lot of conversations recently about Coinbase listing. So I wanted to ask you about your experience.
Yeah, the Coinbase listings team is super secretive. So like I actually don't have more insights than anybody else, except for that they reached out to us. They asked us a few questions. I think we answered those questions not correctly, but like they didn't really tell us like, oh, this is incorrect. But like for sure we probably slipped in some things that probably like raised their eyebrows of like, oh, this maybe is not like 100% legit or something, or like or this could be like, you should like, maybe this triggers like, oh, you're a security or something, like things like that. And we're like, oh damn, like we should have gotten some lawyers to look at this or something. So then they were so we responded and they were like, no, no, we can't at this time, we can't. But they were the ones that reached out, so I was like, well, if they're reaching out, then like this like we just have to fill it out and we're good. And they're like, no. Then I heard that maybe there's like a 6 month rule that like you need to be around for at least 6 months or something. But like obviously I never heard that from like the Coinbase team, and like they're just too secretive. I also heard that like once you get changed from like the pile of like applications to like, like technically like they emailed us, so like that was almost like an application, And so like once you get discarded into like this pile of discarded applications, I heard it was like impossible to come back. So we were thinking of ways of like how can we like do everything, like cover everything so that we're 100% like legit, legal. So we hired like Fenwick as our lawyers. We made sure that like to go through like everything, make it super tight. And then our plan was to come circle back to them and be like, hey, no, like everything we said is okay. Like we've done all the legwork. And but they ended up circling back themselves. Or no, they ended up posting like, hey, those things they post where they're like, oh, we're going to list this in the future or something. And so we didn't even find out through them. We just found out through like a Twitter post. And I think maybe they emailed us. Maybe they emailed us like after or
Yeah.
like at the
P.S.
same exact time.
Yeah. P.S. By
Yeah.
the way, your life's about to change.
Yeah. So now you're going to be on Coinbase. But again, we had no idea when. Like it was like there's no like insider information type of thing. Like
Yeah.
you get what the public gets, and
That's
and
good, I
that's it.
guess, in that sense. But
Yeah, and then like they listed, and I was just hanging out here. My mom was here. Actually, she was flying out the next day, and then like all of a sudden, I'm getting all these like pings of like, oh, you're on Coinbase, you're on Coinbase. I'm like, oh, on Coinbase futures? Yeah, we've been on Coinbase futures for a while. That's not new. And they're like, no, you're on Coinbase spot. And I was like, oh, whoa, like this is huge. So that was like a huge vote of confidence.
and for a while you were one of the only. Well, for a while you were considered the only sort of base meme coin that was available. But I know you weren't classified as a meme coin when you were added to Coinbase. They kind of put you under utility coins, I think, or something. And I always felt that was like a way that they made it work. But I always considered it still to be the first meme coin on Coinbase, though.
Yeah, no, we're definitely a meme. So that like we're not going away from that. So yeah, I would say we're the first meme coin. There was only 4 tokens I think listed on base. I think it was like Aerodrome. I don't even know the other ones to be honest. But
Brett
yeah,
somehow? No, Brett was later. I don't
no,
remember.
no. Brett never got listed. I don't think.
Oh, didn't it? Okay.
Yeah. I
I
don't
hope
think they
hope it
want to
never
list
does.
Brett. Yeah, why is that? Why is
I
there
don't
such a
know, man.
sour taste in people's mouth? Like
Because
I have
nobody knows anyone who owns Brett, and so it's like, what the hell's going on here? Like, it's just such
that's
a
the thing. Yeah, that's the exact same thing that I kind of feel like. Where does that? How does that happen? Like, and so that's where I kind of start thinking like some of these tokens are really like I don't know engineered in a way. Like
they're
there's it
cabal
feels like
coins. They're really cabal coins. Like, people talk about cabal coins, but there are some that are really like smart people from the Bored Apes or wherever got together and they're like, let's put our capital together. Let's build out. We'll own the supply for the first X days. We won't sell. And then they start painting the chart. It's if you organize yourselves and you have capital, it's possible to do.
yeah. I think there are some like really genius chart painters out there, and that's something that it's like you won't ever hear about or see, and it's like hard to confirm like who's doing it or like whatever or how they're doing it. Um, but yeah, that's the other side of all of this.
I'm gonna get a cease and desist now from Brett Incorporated once this pod goes live.
Yeah, well, we're not saying that they're the ones doing it, but it is the place where I've always felt like I just don't get it. Like either DGen is doing something wrong or like what's going on because I just don't get how they were like ahead of us in like market cap and things like in volume. It was
Yeah.
just such a weird story because like you could see our Telegram, you could see like yeah, I don't know. So
All I'll
maybe
say is I think Toshi. Are you sure? I think Brett's not on Coinbase. I think it is now. I think it is
maybe
on. Maybe
uh,
I'm wrong. But anyways, I know that recently Toshi got listed, and Toshi
yeah
is a real based community with
yeah.
with real people, and all of a sudden that meme went sort of ballistic as soon as it was listed on Coinbase. And so I think you're seeing that like when you do get that combination of a good community with real people, and then they get like extra liquidity from something like a Coinbase listing, it can really take off. And hopefully those organic ones are the winners in the end, and not the chart painted ones, whatever they may be.
Yeah, however they're doing it, I don't know. Maybe they're legit. Who knows? But yeah, I get that vibe too.
Yeah. You were talking a little bit ago about the party that you recently had in Poland for the DEGEN anniversary, the first anniversary of DEGEN. Tell us about that. I guess right now is about a week ago, and by the time this airs, it'll be a couple weeks back. But what was the party what did you guys do and who came and how was it?
Yeah, so the party was actually, so I have to shout out to my wife. She actually planned the whole thing, so she did a really great job. And we had 50 people there, which was pretty good. But next time, I think I'm going to do more marketing because, like this one guy that I just told you about, like he's in Wrocław and he on DGen, he didn't even know there was a party. So next time we'll do a lot more marketing and make sure people know about it. Because even on Farcaster, I think people are like, oh man, I wish I had gone. So. It was in Wrocław, Poland, so what's kind of like it's winter here, and it is like it's the fourth largest city in Poland, so it's not like the major destination. But otherwise, like I'm still stoked. Like people flew in from Texas, from Korea,
I think
from
I may
all of
know
the
who flew in from Texas.
yeah, yeah, you probably do.
The
So
hat stays on, yeah.
exactly, and so yeah, it was cool. We had Justin on. He's like a former YC founder, sold a company. He came to talk about why tipping is important. We had this guy, Sam, I don't want to butcher his last name. He had worked with Wojtek or Waj from Supercast and was one of the part-time employees. Waj was going to come, but he got acquired by Warpcast, so he just sort of immediately picked up and left
Yeah.
to LA that weekend.
Yeah. Is he
Literally like
moving
two,
there permanently or I was
so
wondering
far,
about that.
yeah. So far, he's
Yeah.
out there in an Airbnb. I just talked to him yesterday, and he's just
Nice.
settling in. We had Mac Butkowski from Kiwi, which is also like a
Cool.
cool news place. So we had, yeah, just a whole bunch of people. A good guy to girl ratio too, which was cool because usually at crypto events you get pretty one-sided.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see the crypto girls kind of
Crypto
showed up.
the DGen baddies, is that what it was? Like the bear
Yeah,
baddies?
no, yeah, they came and they were having a good time, so it was good. And then like Matthew Fox, yeah, just a whole bunch of really great people. So we hung out like
Shout out
Friday.
Clankermon. Big fan.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Is that Matthew Fox? I didn't even realize that he's the one
Yeah.
building that.
Yeah, he's the dev
Yeah,
guy in Clankermon.
he's building everything. He's building Jeeves, he's building that. So,
Hmm.
yeah, super sick. I ended up quitting at midnight, and they ended up staying out till like 5 in the morning. Some of them just partying out
What a
here.
bunch of DGens, eh?
Yeah, it's a college city, so they went to like a club called Jamaica, and they were just like hanging out there and had a good time. So it was cool. Next year we're gonna do it even bigger.
Love it. DGen recently did a bit of a migration, not a migration, I guess, but an expansion to Solana, and now you're cross chain and some other chains as well. Can you talk a little bit about that and your decision to do that, to make that move?
Uh, yeah, I mean, DJing's always been about like experimenting with stuff. So if it works, it works. If not, we just keep building things. So one of the things was that we saw in November, all these people were asking us like, well, there was like 0x Mert from, Helios and Big Solana. I think he's the top three crypto Twitter influencers.
We know Mert,
Uh,
yeah.
and he ended up talking about, hey, Degen come to Solana or something. And so
Right,
then we saw
right.
all these fake Degen tokens being created on Solana, like on Pumped Up Fun and just like otherwise. And
Yeah.
they had like quite a lot of volume and like attention. And so we were like, oh, let's just kind of make Degen omni-chain. Like if people want to have Degen on different chains, they can do it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we enabled that. We that also made it easier to bridge to Degen chain. So we partnered with Layer Zero and Stargate and made that happen. And so now it's super easy to make Degen interoperable. Like if there's any chain that comes online, we can quickly switch it on and have people bridge.
Is it difficult to manage liquidity when you have different chains like that and to keep the market cap the same and whatnot?
No, so the market cap is always going to be the same just because the way layer zero works, it's like it's a lock and mint mechanism. So anytime you bridge, DGen gets locked up on base, it can't be released, and it gets a new supply gets minted. So the supply is always constant. In terms of like the liquidity pools, I think there's people arbitraging and just finding opportunities, so there's no problem there. So liquidity is okay. We've sort of spread it out a little bit. And then it just depends on the DGen community, like where do they want to put their funds. We haven't seen too much activity on any of these chains.
What has the response been like from the Solana side? Did people re-accept it with open arms or?
So we got a lot of support on the launch day. The Solana official Twitter account tweeted us. Mert tweeted us. Basically, everybody from Solana gave us a shout out. So that was great. But we haven't really seen the Solana community like accept it as its own. So yeah, but the Lego piece is there. I feel like we're putting out the Lego pieces, and that's fine. And like actually, that's like the shots on goal. Like basically, we just have to keep shooting different from different positions, and something hits, something's hit, something's don't, something's hit in like a year, and so you have that's another thing, you have to just be around for a while. So we'll see. Maybe there's a day where Solana's like, oh, we're picking up DGen. That's it. Like this is the thing, and then boom, they take it off.
Hmm. You're removing the friction in advance to make it easier for people to build, or for traders to trade, or whatever, for liquidity to go where it wants to go.
Yeah, the piece is there. If you want to go there, then go there. If not, then we're still on base, and there's no, it doesn't detract from being on base. So it's totally fine.
I'm glad that you brought up the layer three, because we got down so many different paths here. It's been a great conversation, but I completely forgot to ask you about the L3, and that's been a big part of the DGen story as well. I'd love to hear sort of why you originally wanted to launch the L3, and what your thoughts were on that. Maybe even before that, actually, for our listeners, you could explain what a layer three is, because people often meme it up and they're like, oh, layer two, and then we'll need a layer three, and oh, what about the layer four and the layer five? But there are real reasons why an L3 makes sense. So can you explain that to people, and explain why you wanted to make one for DGen?
Yeah, I'll definitely talk about that. And also, I'm gonna have to switch off to another thing in like about 5 minutes ish. So,
Perfect. Yeah.
um,
We'll do this, and
the
then I've got one last question to sign off. So
perfect. With the Degen chain, yeah, that was essentially a community member that came to us. Yeah, his username is Owl on Farcaster.
I know Al, yeah.
Uh, yeah, and he's just he actually came to the Degen parties out in Berlin, and so yeah, he's like, these degen, the L3s coming online. They were building essentially sort of like verifiable randomness technology, and like sort of
Yeah,
like this
yeah.
lotto PGF thing.
Yep.
And so they're like, we would like for we'd like cheaper fees, because actually on base it's more expensive um than elsewhere.
Right.
So yeah, um so it ended up kind of going in that direction. Like, let's just launch it and see, and that's sort of what we did. And yeah, and but it's an experiment in and of itself. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be sort of like its own. It's supposed to be a land for degen. So I ended up calling it the Las Vegas of blockchains, and I still think we have that vision of making it a place where people can build. We
Yeah.
just been kind of spread thin on doing all the different things we've been doing.
Well, also you had a rough go of it too. Like I was a big supporter of the L3 from early days, and it was tough to see. Like you basically kind of got let down by a third party distributor, or collaborator, I guess you'd call it. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know you might be limited in what you can say, but what was it like, having this whole thing that you guys had built disrupted by someone else's problems, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so we definitely got into like a kind of conflict with Conduit, and we posted like a blog post about it. Yeah, they didn't seem like they were really, um, yeah, I don't know. The chain went down for like 2 or 3 days. They were it didn't feel like they were, well, it was a bad relationship, like things just soured. I don't know why that kind of happened. Was it on their side? What was it like? Was it because, yeah, there's just a bunch of, well, it wasn't a good relate. I think we posted about it in the blog post, and we were just super unhappy with them. um
So how did you recover from that? Maybe that keep it positive.
Yeah, so we really wanted to move to Alchemy, and finally we were able to kind of get our keys from them, and sort of we had to go public in order to do that. And so finally they're like, they just gave us the keys, and so we had the keys to the chain, and then we sort of moved over to Alchemy. And since then it's been great. Like the chain is like operating completely fine. Alchemy's been doing a lot of updates to the chain. So I'm really happy about that. And now and we have like Camelot as a DEX. We have Stargate doing the bridging together with Decent. as like a front end modal, like a UI piece. So I feel like the chain is now finally very, very stable. Like you're not gonna find any issues with it. It's not going to go down. It's in, like you have all the tools you need. You have a good RPC. You have like APIs on Alchemy and things like that. So it's much easier to build on. So now, like now the Legos are in place, and now it's like you have airdrop 3, and like how can we incentivize people to start building? And is that the right place for people to start building? If they don't want to build on DGen chain, figure out why, and maybe that, and go like let's go to where the people want to build. So it's an experiment, but I think it does have mind share. We have a good amount of TVL, so I'm pretty happy about it, and I think we just have to give it some time.
Makes sense. Last question here for you before I let you go. What are you most excited about for 2025? We're just getting started in this year. We're hopefully in the starting part of a bull market, though nobody seems to know. But what are you most excited about for 2025?
So I haven't changed too much. Like I don't really go with the cycles. I don't really care too much about like the AI meta and things like that. So I'm still social fi. So I really think Farcaster is at the sort of early stages. I think they have the best chance of really becoming like the Web3 social app that kind of becomes mainstream. Coinbase is going to have them in their feed. They're incorporating them. So that's like a huge stamp of approval. So I really think Farcaster and social are going to come back, and SocialFi is going to be like I don't know if it's going to be like front and center, but for sure, like over time, it's going to gain momentum. And I think like we're just scratching the surface of what we can do with finances within a social feed, which has never really been done before. You have like tipping buttons or buy me a coffee or some of the like the banker stuff on X a little bit, but like there's no like good native experiences for doing social and then also having your finances tied to that and being able to do like anything you want to do, the embedded wallet is a great first step for Farcaster. Playing mini apps, paying for those in the game, earning in the app, spending in the app, and rewarding people for content, like giving more power to the network, less power to the app. Hopefully, is top of mind for me. I feel like in social,
And less power to the distributor too. Like if you look at something like Apple, for example, where if you're playing any of these games on your iPhone or using apps or whatever, you are transacting. There is a moneyness aspect there, but it all goes through Apple, and they take a 30% cut of everything. So, how can you take that profit center? Jesse often says like what does he say? Their cut is our opportunity, or something like this. Their take rate. Their take rate is our opportunity, basically.
exactly, yeah. Like I feel like it's like with the stock market, where back in the day in the '90s, you might have to call a broker, pay him a few $100, maybe a few $1,000 commission. Then you went to like E-Trade, and then you could kind of pay $10 or $20 for a trade. And then you went to Robinhood, where they're like, no, that's still too big of a take rate. So we'll give you free trades. Yeah, we're going to sell your order flow. Probably not maybe not a good
Trade.
trade, but yeah, but maybe if you could choose. And I feel like nowadays, social's been doing that a lot. You have the huge tech companies, the huge social media companies taking all the value that the network's creating, where I feel like it should be flipped on its head, where the users are creating the content, which is the valuable part of the network.
Yep.
They should be earning all the money.
Amen.
The
Preach.
platform is just hosting the servers and the programmers, and that's great too. But I feel like once we start creating networks that can be moved, like Farcaster, like if you don't want to be on Warpcast, your network goes with you. So if you
Yep.
want to move your network to a Supercast or like DGencast
Coinbase
or something
wallet.
like that, Coinbase Wallet, then you move it there, and like the platform is no longer in control of the network, and the network accrues value to wherever it wants to, wherever they feel they're getting the most value. So I'm super excited to see SocialFi still expand. I think it's like pretty early. I was hyped about Frentag. I wish they had kept going. I still talk to racers sometimes, but I think there's like a future in this space.
I think so. I think so too. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jacek. It's been really great to finally get a chance to chat with you face to face. Great conversation. This will be sort of packaged up and ready to go 1 week from next Tuesday. So a couple weeks from
Amazing.
now,
I'm down. I'm
keep you
ready.
posted. we'll let you know before it comes out, so we can get the word out about it, etc. But really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we'll get a chance to run into each other. You'll probably be at Farcon, I assume.
Yeah, I'm planning to, but I have to double check with my wife to see like if we have, yeah, if we can make it happen. But yeah, I want to go.
I'm missing ETH Denver, so definitely gonna make sure I make an appearance at Farcon. So hopefully I'll see you there.
Definitely.